Greetings, friends. This is Mike from Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. This week, as every week, Kyle and I will be discussing a topic. I don't know what topic. We're going to debate it vigorously. We're going to learn a little something. And then by the end of the episode, we're going to come to a conclusive Top 10. But today, as we've done a few times recently, we'll be having a guest. But we'll be having a very, very special guest. We're having the pod's number one critic and probably its number 6 fan. We are having dear friend of us and the pod, Quinn. So Quinn, Kyle, what are we talking about today?
So today, I'm talking about something I'm very passionate about, something I'm very interested in, and that is the top 10 cookout foods.
Oh.
One of the best parts of summer is grilling. Absolute best parts. So, I was thinking, if you're going to a cookout or you're hosting a cookout, what are your hopes there? What do you want to be there? So, I'm trying to think of things that are commonly there. I mean, there's a few that I'll note in the honorable mentions where it's you just don't see it, but it would be great if you did. Take notes, cookout people.
Yeah. Ooh, grilled pizza is actually pretty good. Caroline's dad does that sometimes.
Yeah, it's really good. But I wanted to talk about this because it's summer, so I felt it was topical, and it's also just delicious. I'm hoping to get some mouths watering.
Yeah, I think it's important for the listeners to understand who is guesting on this pod right now. So if any of you have ever watched the television program Parks and Recreation, or if any of you are close personal friends with Nick Offerman, first tell us you're close friends with him and get him on the pod. But secondly, you know Quinn, because Quinn is Ron Swanson incarnate. He actually is kind of clean shaven today and looks like the Tammy 1 version of Ron, who says things like gee willikers and just hands out crisp $20 bills and such. However, he is very strongly associated in our group with dark brown liquids and meat.
That's true, because they're delicious.
Yes. And clear liquids are for rich women on diets.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. It's particularly relevant because I'm visiting Quinn and his lovely wife this weekend, and we had a epic cookout yesterday. So I imagine many of the items on that menu will appear on this list as well. So it's very relevant.
Indeed. Can I just clarify one thing? I'm assuming that in order to get a strong top 10 list, this must be the case, but are we including sides and whatnot here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm going to include sides. I'm going to include drinks.
Oh, I like that.
I'm going to include all sorts of things. I'm going to talk about meat, whether it's grilled or not. However, there's going to be a strong leaning towards the grilled meats because it's cookout and grilled meats are just better.
That's true.
But just because something is not grilled does not mean it cannot make the list.
Okay.
Amazing.
So,
very excited and going to be very hungry.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What's number 10, Quinn?
All right. Number 10, I have ribs.
Yeah.
Now, ribs are fantastic, but they're only at number 10 because they're so difficult to do well.
Yeah.
And bad ribs are bad. They're inedible. And I personally am not sure I can do good ribs, and I don't want to try because every time you buy the ribs, it's like $40.
Yeah.
And then you may ruin them.
Well,
so
the difficulty with ribs is that there's a certain cooking apparatus that you really need. The image of ribs is and those of you who haven't seen this, please look it up, is of Vince Wilfork standing in front of a huge smoker while shaking his butt to some music in the middle of the summer. That's the ribs image, and
it's bigger than a refrigerator.
Yeah, it's really tough to make them right.
It's super, super difficult. A couple 4th of Julys ago, we were at a family friend's place, and he is a fantastic cook, and he made a bunch of wonderful meats, and then some other guest that was invited decided to smoke some ribs while he was there, like a fool. And they were untouched.
Oh, no.
Untouched.
Ribs are high risk, high reward. But
Right, because if you have a good rib, it's unbelievable.
Because I would say that a well-prepared rib, if you go to a family gathering where Uncle whoever is the rib guy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's the fucking highlight attraction. People are lining up for that shit. They're bypassing the other stuff. I'm a little surprised to hear you express some hesitancy towards preparing them because you're one of the most recklessly confident people I know. And also probably the best griller I know. This is right up your alley, Quinn.
That's fair. I haven't had a smoker since leaving home for college. Yeah. So I'm really inexperienced in the smoker realm.
I mean, I don't see any reason you can't just like buy one, right? It's not like you have any like big life moments coming up that require like a lot of your funds, right?
Well, sometimes you gotta treat yourself.
You also have a lot of free time recently, correct?
For at least the next 3 weeks, I have a lot of free time.
For the listeners, Quinn is actually busy hewing a crib out of an entire yew tree. It's been quite an undertaking. He's been doing it with his hands. He doesn't actually use any sharp objects. It's just his fists.
Just in teeth.
Yeah, in teeth.
That's
yes,
true.
Teeth are allowed.
I built it from an IKEA breed tree.
Yeah, it is not up to any sort of federal regulations. Please don't raid his home. It is, however, going to suffice for his presumably very handsome and fuzzy child.
Yeah, it'll certainly be fuzzy, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. If ribs is number 10, we have a great list in front of us.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right. So I'll go to number 9, and bear with me on this one a little bit, guys. I'm going to talk about how it's prepared, because that's really important to the food itself. This is going to seem like a little bit of a hot take, but I'll see if I can win you over. Number 9 is asparagus. Now, I have asparagus because if you cook asparagus after the meats and season it just like the meets, they taste like meats. And you get a little bit of nutrition in with it. So,
indeed. It's an interesting concept.
I thought I hated asparagus, and I went up to my wife's family's lake house one time, and we were grilling some steaks and some burgers and whatnot, and they had seasoned the asparagus with some like Chicago steak seasoning, which is pretty heavy on garlic and salt and pepper, and I think they had some balsamic oil in there as well. Mm-hmm. And then they threw them on the grill after, and it had all those residual beef juices. Mm-hmm. And the asparagus just soaked it right up, and it is delightful. You get the crispy ends that are really hard to get on the stovetop with asparagus. Yes. It doesn't get limp and noodly. It's great.
I was gonna say, because you remember, Quinn and I lived together the first couple years out of college and oftentimes cooked for each other. And we cooked a lot of asparagus, and it's really hard to get it right in a stove. It's really difficult.
Right.
Almost always significantly better on the grill. And I'm trying to think and having a hard time. If you're going to grill something green,
right,
it's asparagus. Like, that's the best of the green options. There are other vegetables and starches you can grill, but if you want something really green, I can't think of a better one than asparagus to do.
Yeah. I think the big thing with the asparagus is getting enough oil, but not too much oil, because that can be what makes it limp. And my other thing with the asparagus is it's all about the big crystals of salt. When you get like the nice sea salt, that makes a huge difference, because it actually adds a very subtle little crunch to it. That's nice. But here's my question, Quinn. The number one question about asparagus: do you like the big, thick steakhouse asparagus, or do you like the very thin ones?
Ooh, so I really prefer the thin ones.
Yeah.
Because I think you can get a good, crisp crunch to them.
Yeah.
The big ones, you can still get that good, crisp crunch, but you can't get like the little charred ends nearly as effectively.
I'm in. Okay, I'm glad you agree. Sorry, you go, Kyle.
Well, I was going to say, with the thicker ones, you can end up kind of with similar problems that you might have with actual meat, in that it doesn't necessarily get cooked all the way through.
True.
And you get inconsistent cooking throughout the asparagus, which is like, I don't want to have to think about that when I'm cooking a vegetable, quite frankly.
No.
Yeah, I'm down. I like this pick a lot.
Okay, good. I was a little worried about it, but I'm glad you guys are in.
No.
All right. Well, I'll move on to number 8 then. And number 8, I have watermelon.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That was the first thing I wrote.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, watermelon is just so refreshing. It's typically a hot day, especially if there are kids at this barbecue, this cookout. You're going to want some watermelon because it's just sugar water, but you feel okay giving it to them because it's a fruit. But really, everyone loves them. You can have watermelon seed spitting contests if you really want.
Oh, absolutely.
You can give the rinds to the dogs and just let them chow down. My first one loved watermelon. He would eat it. Sometimes he'd jump on the table and just eat it on the plate. But watermelon's just a great cookout food. It's super summery. It's only really good in the summer. So it's the best time for it.
Well, since we're talking grills, have you ever had grilled watermelon?
Yes. And I understand its merits. I understand why some people would like it. I don't particularly love it just because watermelon's so refreshing. It's like, I want it cold.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm with you.
I will say watermelon is unique amongst at least the cookout foods I'm thinking of, and that my urge to just continually eat it and never stop isn't punishable by feeling like utter and total ass. Like,
That's a great point.
That's important.
Like when I show up to a cookout, I'm there to play bags and eat, really.
Yeah, that's it.
And so like the fact that I can eat half a watermelon if I want to and feel fine because I'm just drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
And still have room, in fact,
Right.
for other foods.
Yeah, watermelon is great because even on this line, because you can have it before, in the middle, or after your meal. It's great as it's great to prep you, kind of get ready. It's great to cleanse the palate between courses, or it's great as a dessert. Like it works anywhere in a grill situation.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's a utility infielder.
Yeah. Ben Zobrist. It's the Ben Zobrist of grilling foods.
I agree, and we can to continue this a little further. Ben Zobrist has a really funky, fun batting stance. He hits from both sides. Watermelon is super fun to eat. You hold it with it gets a lot of points for the fashion in which you eat it. It's a lot of fun. Your hands get kind of sticky.
Yeah.
And I love eating sunflower seeds. I like spitting things out of my mouth. I like to spit the seeds out of a watermelon.
Yeah.
It gets a ton of points for being a very fun food as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well said.
Perfect. Move on to number 7 then?
Yes. What is number 7?
Okay. Number 7, I have kebabs. Now, with kebabs, you can cook in a number of ways. The kebabs I'm imagining typically have peppers and onions skewered on there, sometimes tomatoes, sometimes mushrooms, but they also have whatever meat you want. So my favorite one, which we had yesterday, were some steak with a nice vein of fat running across the top of it, and just slice those bad boys up and stuck them on a skewer and grilled it with some peppers and onions. Again, you could do it anyway. It's good with chicken. It's good with pork. It's good with tofu if you're like that. Just whatever.
I wish you could see Quinn's face, listeners.
Yeah.
It was a little pained as I said.
Utter disgust.
Yeah. But we've been experimenting with marinades recently, and one that we had that was just absolutely delightful, that you marinate anywhere from, I recommend 24 to 48 hours, but you could do it even just for 2 hours would help. And it's soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, full grain mustard, a little bit of brown sugar, and cracked black pepper, and it is dynamite. The soy sauce adds all the salt you need. The others add excellent flavor, and you can just adjust the sweetness versus the tanginess, depending on the mustard sugar ratio you go with. It's fantastic.
I have not eaten breakfast, and that is really working for me.
I will say I'm a little confused, not because of the merits of the kebab, but just of the logistics of the list, because a kebab, I mean, theoretically, not the things that we already have on here, but I feel like each component of a kebab is by itself typically something I would consider a cookout food on its own. So like a grilled onion or pepper could versus, or like how do you separate a kebab from a steak? And I'm not saying just a steak by itself. And I'm not saying it doesn't have a place. I'm just saying it'll be interesting how we decide to rank it based on the medium upon which you get that steak or whatever it is into one's mouth.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because if we're going to go with the same, what I just said about the watermelon, kebabs are a ton of fun. For example, yesterday, rather than individually remove several onions from the kebab skewer, I just grabbed one on the end and slid them all into my mouth like a cartoon character.
Right.
And that was delightful.
And they're a lot of fun. If you are a child or act like a child, you can then either joust or sword fight with your empty kebab stick.
Of course.
It's endless entertainment. But logistically on the list, I'm thinking of like if you had one skewer and it had some peppers and onions and tomatoes and mushrooms and meat, like all on there together. So I know it's hard to separate, but
well, that's why
we'll figure it out.
We are here to answer the tough questions.
That is true. Can I also, just for the listeners, make sure that you have an image in your head? I've tried to paint a picture of Quinn for you a little bit. His relationship with his wife and our dear friend Emma is one that commonly leads to the two of them having childish little, like, they tickle each other or they play games where they try to knock each other's hats off or something. And inevitably one of them gets hurt. So I have like a real strong image of the two of you jousting with kebabs and somehow your eye getting put out. Like I have it just feels like I'm seeing into the future and it's not ending well for you.
Well, you still might be seeing into the future. We have not heard each other with kebab skewers yet, but the way she wormed her way into my extended family's heart was at a cookout at my mom's house, actually. And we had some teriyaki skewers, and she had skewered a hot dog and had built like a food pyramid, and that was when the flag came out, was a hot dog just like sticking out of this food fort of kebabs. So that was when my Uncle Mike told me I needed to marry her. So, thankfully we haven't hurt each other, but we're definitely not above playing with the kebabs.
No.
Okay, Quinn, that was number 7, which brings us to our favorite segment, the Not Top 3. Have you prepared a Not Top 3?
I do have a Not Top 3. And I want to say this Not Top 3 does not constitute foods that are bad. Well, except one of them. One of them is bad. The other two are perfectly fine foods. In fact, I do love them, and I eat them for lunch a lot. But if they're at a cookout, I'm pretty bummed. If I'm rolling up to the cookout and someone's like, oh yeah, I've got this. It's like, okay.
Didn't you hear my podcast? I literally gave you a list of 10 things you could have cooked here.
You don't have anything else? Okay. So, Not Top 3, I'm starting off with soup, because it's hot. You don't want soup.
That would be terrible.
I love soup. I had soup for dinner Friday night. I had soup, tomato soup and grilled cheese. It's wonderful. But I don't want it at a cookout.
Yeah.
Similarly,
Have you ever been served soup at a cookout?
I don't think I have, but I was just imagining, like, what would be awful?
Well, I just want to step in and defend soup for the Polish listeners out there. Borscht is served cold and could be lovely. What about gazpacho?
Oh,
This could be very refreshing. So, Quinn, I think that was a very insensitive thing you said. Soup is wonderful, and I just hope you think about this later.
Okay, yeah, I'll think about it.
My counter argument to that would be, fuck that. I want soup at a cookout.
Last I checked, I'm not Polish.
I'm just really hoping Arthur will listen. The big thing is I'm trying to get Arthur, our old college buddy, to listen, so. Borscht is great, fair. Arthur.
I completely agree with you. I love a good borscht as much as the next non-Pole. But I'm just saying if I roll into a cookout, and just echoing you, Quinn, I'm ready to eat something that's not soup. That's all.
That's right.
Yeah.
In a very similar vein, salad. And a salad can be at a cookout. That's fine. But I'm picturing rolling up to a cookout and they're like, here's this big salad.
Yeah.
That's what we have.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
If you have a salad, you best have some meat.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just have a salad.
So at a cookout, I'm filling up my plate. And I don't normally portion my meals this way, but at a cookout, it's going to be about half meat on the plate. And then about 2/3 of the remaining plate is going to be some horrible fatty starch deliciousness for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that last little bit can be reserved for greens. But I don't know if I want salad to be there. I want asparagus, probably.
That's interesting. So here's my question. I want to make sure we're talking specifically about green lettuce salad. We are not including the general category of salads here.
Oh, no.
Okay, no. I figured it, just making sure. So my feeling on the salad is that it plays a somewhat similar role, to a different extent, to watermelon for me at cookouts. Because I use the salad to excuse my bad behavior elsewhere. Because, like our good friend Alex, it is my deeply held belief that every unit of salad you consume frees you to consume some other not quite as salubrious thing. Like, that's my view on things.
That's fair.
The salad is the moral license of the cookout.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very nice thing to use at a cookout, in my view.
Okay.
It's a tool. It's a tool wherein I can put more meat in my mouth.
That's true. Okay. Well, maybe it's not top 3 material, but it's certainly not top 10
No,
material.
I'm not necessarily knocking you here, because my priority is, like, things that had a face at one time. But,
right, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my final one, and this is the one that doesn't taste good, is collard greens, and I think I'm renouncing my Southern membership by saying that one.
You are! I like collard greens.
I cannot handle them. Maybe it's just the way they've been prepared, but of just like whatever remains left of the animal that didn't get cooked just gets thrown in with some vegetables.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like, ugh. It kind of disgusts me. But, if you like it, go for it.
I've never consumed a collard green. Shamefully, I admit. I've never had one, so.
I don't think you're missing much, but.
It's like, it's sort of like you take greens and you just use a lot of grease to make them tastier.
Right. That's true.
It does sound up my alley.
Yeah. my other thought with that is like, if I'm going to eat the greens, I want them to be somewhat healthy. I want to save all the unhealthy for the really delicious stuff. It's like,
so just have some salad. So what you do is you have some salad to pay for your collard greens.
If I'm building up salad bucks, I'm not going to cash that shit in on a collard green.
You don't even know what a collard green tastes like, you northern shit. They're delicious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I'm going to the trouble of eating a salad, you can bet it's an extra hot dog. Or 6.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, you're basically, you're going to be consuming some pig lips somewhere, and you'd rather it be in your hot dogs than in your greens.
Yes. Right. So
yeah.
That's right.
Okay, that's fair.
If we're done talking about the collard green.
Yes, I'm done.
I would like to add the poorly constructed or constructed with extraneous ingredients potato or pasta salad. Done well, the potato or pasta salad, I'd be surprised if it wasn't somewhere higher on this list. It's a really important part of a cookout. Yeah. But sometimes people add weird stuff into it, or it's just like the consistency is off and it's like weird and lumpy, or like the whatever sauce you prepare it with is, just not a good consistency. It's kind of like the ribs. Like,
yeah,
there's a wide range of potato or pasta salads that you can have.
For sure.
Kyle, I'd like to thoroughly support this notion, but sort of broaden it to like all the foods here, because I think that you end up with the Chris Traeger effect, where you try to take something that is very simple and delicious and you try to make it too fancy. Like, I think basically anything on this list that is preceded by the word deconstructed is simply wrong, because these things don't need anything else. They're delicious all on their own. So I'm with you. Like the pasta salad, guess what pasta salad needs? It needs pasta, it needs olive oil, it needs little pieces of red onion, and then if you're feeling crazy, a little bit of like chopped up carrot. And you're great. You're in. That's all it really needs.
That's true. Yeah. So what's your favorite noodle for the pasta salad?
Oh, tricolor rotini. There's no
question. That was the answer. That was the answer. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I think that's where most of wife Emma and my marital discontent comes from. She likes long noodles. Not necessarily for pasta salad. Just
okay. She was like, what?
She likes long noodles, and I prefer the tricolored rotini for everything. So...
I made spaghetti. You're confused, sir. You're by definition not made spaghetti.
That's great.
Yes.
Do you have any others for the not top 3, Mike?
No, I think most of this kind of falls into preparation. I'm basically open to whatever you make at your cookout. There's just such a hazard of poor preparation. That's more the issue.
That was kind of why I went with the soup vein.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's more just like what doesn't fit. Because you can make anything good, you can make anything bad. Yeah. Except you can't make tofu good.
That's true.
I know, Quinn, you got a stance on this. I had tofu for the first time this past Lenten season. Because Chipotle was doing a buy one, get one deal. I said, I'll try it. And maybe this is just the way it's prepared, but to me, it just tasted like Chipotle. I didn't really notice the difference. I think tofu falls in the same camp as the rest of this other stuff. If you're a keen grill master,
that's fair.
You can probably pass it off as something that tastes like meat, much like you can do with asparagus.
Okay. That's a good point. Can I put in a plug actually for one good meat alternative? It's called halloumi. Have either of you ever had halloumi cheese?
Gesundheit.
Okay, so
I think I've heard of it, but I have not had it.
So it's a very very nutty, very oaky. No, it's this. Oh
my god!
It's this very resilient cheese that a lot of Mediterranean cuisines use. So like a lot of Turkish food, some Armenian food. It's a meat alternative that you can actually grill. So it's cheese, but it has a very good consistency so that it won't just melt. You can throw it right on the grill, and it actually does have a very nutty, delicious flavor. It's one of the few meat alternatives that actually is pretty good.
Do you then put cheese on top of it?
I would. Do the Turks and the Armenians? No. In fact, I think that may have been a source of some discontent with them in the past. Is this the cheese on top of the halloumi question?
You can't put cheese on the halloumi, it's already cheese! Alright, well, I think that's a good assessment of our not favorite cookout foods. Do we want to move on to numero seis?
Yeah, I think this is a really good time, especially with all our cheese talk, because number 6 is mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Whoa. Mac and cheese is an incredible side,
Mhm.
and one of the greatest sights in the world is if you're hosting a cookout and you ask people to bring things, you see someone roll in with one of those, those aluminum deep dishes.
The Pyrex. Oh, no, the actual,
like those one-time use
yeah.
ones. And you see them roll that in and they take off the top and it's mac and cheese. Oof.
Yeah.
You see just like 8 pounds of noodle and cheesy deliciousness right there. And well, I'm going to eat until I throw up with that alone.
Yeah. Can I just correct one thing about the image there? One-time use. My cheap ass reuses that stuff all the time. Those metal things, if you really want it, you can reuse that. The cost...
That's true.
The cost of labor to actually clean it to reuse it is surely more than the cost of replacing it.
No
and
doubt.
you also, at least for me, I burn so much old shit onto that, but I will reuse those things until they are no longer recognizable as aluminum.
I love mac and cheese. It's one of my favorite things to do. I can't remember a time that I've seen one at a cookout, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Once again, this feels like it might be a north-south question. This feels like
I think it is.
I think that mac and cheese is bigger south of the Mason-Dixon, especially the cookout mac and cheese.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think a big part of that is because the South has a very loose definition of what's a vegetable.
Really loose if mac and cheese is entering the conversation.
So it definitely is. So if you go to like any meat and three place down south, like the home cooking restaurants, and they're like, you get your meat and your 3 vegetables, and those 3 vegetables are collard greens, mac and cheese, and biscuits and gravy. It's a really loose definition of it.
Yeah.
Which is why everyone down south is happier and fatter than those up north.
Yeah, this sounds like a magical world I'd love to live in.
Yeah.
The thing about mac and cheese, it kind of bucks the cookout trend, because if a food is hot at a cookout, it's likely been grilled.
That's true.
Which is why most of the sides you have a pasta salad, watermelon, served cold. Mm-hmm. It's a nice, yin and yang situation there. Like, mac and cheese, you want it to be hot, served hot, but you can't really grill it, and so it's kind of in a weird nebulous zone at a cookout.
So you probably could grill it if you had one of those.
Flat top.
If you had one of those pans that we were talking about earlier, you just throw it on there. But the thing is it's then taking up valuable grill real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas you can just use an oven for it. And it would, the flavor would remain the same. I'm never going to recommend that you just throw a meat in the oven when you could grill it, but the mac and cheese isn't going to change flavor.
Right.
But I think you need to spend some time a little further south going to some cookouts. Have some great mac and cheese with some breadcrumb crumble crust.
Look, the only reason I'm not showing up to a cookout with mac and cheese is because I didn't really realize this was a thing. If this is a thing, it's happening.
It's a thing.
I've recently started reproducing dear friend of the pod, Dylan's mac and cheese recipe.
Oh, and it's good.
That would be a super hit at my next cookout. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. I'm hoping to be invited to that. I'm looking forward to eating some of that mac and cheese at a cookout.
Alright. Mac and cheese is numero 6.
All right.
Number 5.
Number 5 is grilled chicken. And I want to talk about a few very specific preparations that really put it over the top.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that really induced my love of grilling was my mom and I, when I was a kid, she would let me light all the coals in the chimney for the Weber grill, get things started, and then as I got into high school, she'd have me start cooking things and start helping out. And that really stoked my love for it because there's a little bit of danger. Yeah. Boom. It really stoked my love for it because there's a little bit of danger. We had trees all around the area where we were grilling. It wasn't that far from the house.
That's what the neighbors loved about it too.
Yeah.
We kept all of our kindling in the backyard, right around the grill.
But, so it was fun and fiery and a little bit of dangerous at first, and then I was like, wait a minute, all these foods are way better this way. So One of those was chicken, and the best way to grill chicken is over charcoal with the skin still on, and you give it a nice dry rub. I think a good barbecue is great. You stick some pats of butter underneath the skin.
Oh my god.
And then as it cooks the last 5 minutes or so, you brush on barbecue sauce. So if you're cooking a bunch of meats, you throw the chicken on first because it takes a long time to cook, and just wait for the deliciousness. The skin keeps all the juices in, and really just cultivates that flavor.
How does one insert butter underneath the skin of a chicken?
You gotta make small incisions.
Wow.
Just slide the thin butter in.
With I have no mental image of this. Like with your fingers or with a
I'd
knife?
use a butter
or just
knife, probably.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I didn't realize that was a thing people did.
It's really good. Another good way to prepare it, which I personally have never done, but my wife's family up at their lake house has recently started doing it. It's quite good. It's called spatchcock chicken. And it's where you take kitchen shears, and you cut the spine out of the chicken. Ooh. Like a whole chicken. And you throw the spine away, but then you unfold the chicken so it's all flat and put it directly on the grill. And it still has the skin on it. It's still, you season it all the same way, but you cook this whole chicken together, and it cooks a lot faster than cooking the chicken when it's still in chicken form, because it's flattened.
I somehow think that this might be how the Hound prepares his chickens.
Definitely how the Hound prepares his chickens.
I also think
may not cook it.
No, I think it might also be how he prepares, little butcher's boys when he kills them. You just rip the spine out and chuck it right on the grill. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are talkers. And if you keep talking, I'm gonna have to eat every fucking chicken in this place.
That's one of the greatest moments in Thrones history.
It's one of my favorites. Top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we know that one's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spatchcock chickening.
Yeah. Actually, wait, we should do a more specific top 10 on that. Can I just propose one? I know we don't like to spoil our top 10s. Top 10 food moments from Game of Thrones.
Some turnips.
Yeah. Oh. Nice.
All right. So that's chicken. Chicken's also good any other way. Yesterday we grilled up a chicken breast with an applewood smoke rub. Mm-hmm. Really good. Really good. But really, any way you do it is good unless you burn it or undercook it. I don't recommend that either.
That's the worst. I'd rather, I'm always, I prefer a char.
Yeah, definitely char. But I'm referencing a time Kyle tried to kill us with a little bit of chicken parm, and I was certain I got salmonella.
It was not cooked. Just like the pinkest chicken you ever saw.
It was rare.
And we all had convinced ourselves that we were all going to die.
Yeah.
Yes.
And kind of placeboed ourselves into feeling really awful.
100%.
Yeah. It's a bad sign when you stick your fork into the chicken and the fork bounces back at you. That's not a good sign.
I was really hungry, so I was eating quite fast.
Oh no.
And it just, all of a sudden it got really chewy. It's like, well, this doesn't feel right. And I looked at it.
This is horrifying.
I've eaten that.
In my defense, the breading had a nice char to it.
Oh, the breading was perfect.
Yeah.
I've also since learned how to cook chicken.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that hasn't happened.
I've had your chicken many times since without fear of dying. And it's been quite tasty as well.
All right. That was number 5. How about number 4?
All right. Number 4, we have corn.
Yeah.
Now, this might be the Indiana influence in me.
No.
Okay, good. Glad it's everywhere. A lot of times when we're up at the lake, we get some Amish corn from nearby. It's delightful. It's a summer staple. Every cookout has it. You can prepare it a number of ways. If you got a charcoal grill, you can wrap it in aluminum foil, throw it directly on the coals. You can leave it in the husk. You can throw some butter in the husk along with some salt and pepper, wrap it back up, throw it directly on the coals. You can grill it directly on the grates. You can boil it and it's still delicious. If you have a good recipe, you can do tortilla corn or elote corn, which anytime I had some in college, the Mexican national, under 20 national team was coming. So the entire Mexican community came out and they were cooking some of the best foods I've ever had. And one of them was elote corn, which has just some smoked paprika and some cilantro and some mayo. It's so
I'm glad that elote corn is one of the things that the trendy food community has rallied around.
Yeah.
Because it went from, you can't find elotes, you don't know what elotes are, to everyone has them, and they do it well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can get, there's a place down by the beach in Chicago. It's like a little truck. Like, you can buy it out of a truck now. Such is the increase in its popularity in the last couple of years. I'm a huge fan.
It's wonderful. But I'm particularly at cookouts. Elote corn's probably my favorite preparation, but at cookouts you almost have to have it on the cob.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
You can't be rolling into a cookout with creamed corn.
No, absolutely not. The love of corn runs deep in wife Emma's family. I've seen father-in-law Joe eat 5 ears at dinner one time. Just a plate filled with cobs, and it's really a sight to behold. But I also can't blame him. It's delicious.
Yeah. This has been the most remarkable year of corn that I remember. I don't know about you guys in the Midwest and Midwest/South, but up in New England, the corn has been better this year than I've ever had. It's been since about May until right now. It's been right on.
We had some really good corn yesterday.
Yeah.
The nice small kernels. Mm-hmm. It was from a farmer's market.
Yeah.
Just delightful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great
big
pick.
Big bonus points to corn in the fun category.
Yes, hugely so.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now we do honorable mentions, correct?
That's right, Quinn.
All right, excellent. I have a lot, so I'm going to blow through a few of them pretty quickly, and then there are a couple that, I think there are a few that maybe might make the list, but I'm going to say why I did not include them.
Aight.
Potato salad. Quite good, but it's not my personal favorite, so maybe it's a little bit of bias against it.
Okay.
Coleslaw. Great topping, but doesn't really stand alone that well. Tacos, just because you don't see them that often, but frankly, you should. I love tacos. Now, this one hurt my heart to not include. It's my favorite food. There's so many perfect ways to prepare it, and it's steak. Now, steak is not on there because, well, what kind of fancy cookouts are you guys going to? And if it has steak, invite me. But it's just, if you're inviting 30 people over, you're probably not going to have steak.
Can I Can I say about the steak thing? You're right. The other thing about steak is it's not the grill is not the best preparation method for steak. Grill is the best preparation method for steak tips. And I would maybe make an argument that steak tips could make an appearance on this, even though sort of like steak, like a hunko steak ought not to make this list. The best preparation of a hunko steak is broiled after you have gotten a nice sear on a cast iron pan. It's not best on the grill, but steak tips are great on the grill, and they're somewhat more democratic because you can get kind of a lesser price point.
I can buy into that only for the reason in that usually the smoked flavor improves every meat coming from the grill, but steak is just such a perfect flavor as is.
Exactly.
You don't necessarily need the smoke. However, I do love grilled steak, and if I'm preparing it myself, it's probably how I'm preparing it, just because it's so much fun that way.
I still love steak on the grill.
Of critical importance, a steak prepared on the grill is not a finger food. I can't just pick it up and take a bite out of it like I can some other different kinds of meat that I'm sure we'll be discussing soon. I have to really enjoy a steak, I have to sit there with a fork and knife and eat it, and I'm probably only got plastic cutlery.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's just not feasible.
That's right.
Now, I will say, the steak sandwich is probably the closest iteration besides maybe the steak tip.
Steak kebab.
I think kebab is off a skewer, or the steak sandwich. I'm sure you guys remember on game days, there was that one stand that would serve the steak sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's really good. Again, I don't know what kind of cookout you roll up to where people are making steak sammies, but I totally understand why this doesn't quite qualify.
Right. And it did hurt my heart because it's my favorite food. But,
indeed.
All right. Parfaits, particularly angel food with either vanilla yogurt and then mixed berries or whipped cream instead of the yogurt. Just layer that up. Really nice, light, fluffy, delicious. Lemonade and iced tea, or lemonade and iced tea together. There's a little Arnold Palmer. Baked beans. Really popular, not my favorite.
With baked beans, you're entering the barbecue realm. And barbecue, like actually specific barbecue style food.
I see.
Is I don't know, it's kind of it's like a subgenre of the cookout almost.
Right. Similar, I have pulled pork, because you can do a little bit on the grill, but not exclusively. You gotta slow cook that or smoke it. I have grilled pizza. Delightful, and really you should try it, but it's not the ideal grilled food. But if you're having a week's worth of grilling, make one day grilled pizza.
Quinn, can I hop in on a sort of a fun grilled food that you might like in the vein of pizza? Have you ever had grilled pepperoni?
No.
Okay, grilled pepperoni is utterly magnificent. You can only have...
Just put it right on the grates?
You take the stick...
Ooh.
You just cut a little slit like a hot dog so it doesn't explode in your face. And then you put it on the grill and you cook it until it's done. And it is truly a magnificent, magnificent food. You can only have it like once and you'll die, but it's so good.
Yeah. I don't recommend eating a whole stick of pepperoni.
No, I do. I absolutely recommend it. Deeply, I recommend it. Yeah.
I want to see you eat it as a cartoon character and just munch down with every bite getting closer.
Like obnoxiously, like lick your fingers and smack your lips.
Yes, exactly. Okay, next one, ice cream pie. My favorite, it's a graham cracker crust, and then you melt, a half gallon of vanilla ice cream and a half gallon of orange sherbet, and you combine them, pour it into the crust, and then freeze it. It's delightful. It's probably my favorite summer dessert. If you make one, I'm eating the entire thing. Next is a gin gimlet, which, while it is a clear liquor, it's pretty darn refreshing. So throw a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of simple syrup, and then we like to add some rosemary to it as well to give it a nice little refreshing smell and flavor. It's quite good. I have mixed berries.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. They're my favorite fruits, but they don't quite have the fun watermelon side. Yeah. They're not as perfect for the cookout, but they are still pretty perfect for a cookout.
I'm huge on mixed berries, and I also think mixed berries can be a complement to some other desserts that work really well.
Oh yeah.
Does that include the general fruit salad? For example, a fruit salad that includes some things that are not berries, as in a cantaloupe or a pineapple.
I wasn't thinking of it that way, but it can. I mean, I think that's has the exact same merits.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then next I have condiments. They're very important, but I don't think they deserve a spot on the list. No. And then last is pork chops. Pork chops are delightful. That was another thing we grilled out yesterday. Oh. And their best preparation's probably on the grill after marinating it in that marinade that I talked about for like 48 hours.
With the bone?
I didn't do with the bone in, but I'm sure with the bone in is great.
The problem with the problem for the pork chop is that it's contending with the A-listers of the meat world.
It was really tough to leave off, but it was like, well,
yeah,
I don't think it quite cuts it.
Yeah.
So that's the extent of my honorable mentions. Should we move on to the top three before we get to you guys?
Let's knock out these top three. I'm very excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3, as I'm sure you guys guessed, are hot dogs / brats.
Okay.
Interesting that we're grouping them, because I actually think there's an argument to be made that there's enough of a difference between the two that they could be listed separately, but please.
So the reason I didn't separate them is because their form is similar, and I had a hard time whittling this down to 10.
Yeah.
And I thought, what of these can I combine and potentially get away with it? Yeah, hot dog and brats were the one side.
This coming from me and Mike, the king of grouping.
And after I made fun of you guys for grouping everything on beach activities, now I'm understanding its merits. So, I mean, hot dogs and brats, they're classic. Adults love them. Kids love them. I love not thinking what's in them and just chowing down. The only time they're gross is when I see Joey Chestnut eat 70 of them in like 10 minutes. Ugh. Every other time, they're fantastic. Brats are also not that far off from like a breakfast sausage, so you can have a nice cold leftover brat the next morning, chop it up with some eggs, throw it in an omelet. Delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. There's just so many ways to prepare them. I love them with hot dogs and brats with some grilled onions and some nice high quality mustard, and then even some pickles on there if you want it. It's a little weird with the pickles, but it's delightful.
Never had that, but I like the sound of that.
It's got a good crunch.
Gotta get you a Chicago dog, son.
Yeah. And the pro tip is toast the buns.
Yes.
Yeah.
That really puts it over the top. That's like one of the most important things, because you're only going to get so much hot dog quality difference. But if you toast the buns, MVP.
Do you guys do the New England style buns with the bottom, or do you do the everybody else's style hot dog buns?
I don't know what a New England style is.
So the New England style bun, instead of just being two pieces of bread that hinge together, it's got the hinge, but at the bottom it's squared off.
So I've never seen that.
Yeah, that's the New England style bun. It makes it much easier to grill, and it's what is typically used when you see like a lobster roll. That's usually what they put on.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
So I think I would like that for brats,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't for hot dogs, because sometimes with hot dogs, I'm thinking there's too much bun here.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assessment.
But with brats, I think it would be good.
Yeah.
Hot dogs, for me, a brat is like just the classier, better dressed, more interesting cousin of the hot dog.
Yeah.
But like, I'm typically only going to eat like one or two, and I'm going to savor it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put nice mustard on it,
That's right.
some nice grilled onions. And there's a time and a place for that. The hot dog, see, I prefer the hot dog. Sometimes you're not in the mood for all that haughtiness. Not haughtiness, but like, the hot dog is just like the grossest thing, but my favorite, like on my list, I love hot dogs.
Well,
more than
please
anything.
mention to the people your hot dog routines in college.
Yeah, so in our student union, after midnight, one could acquire a hot dog for 25 cents. Thus, they were named the quarter dog. It'd be interesting to sit down and really estimate how many I consumed. But
Yeah. It might not be
That's
fun,
not-
actually.
No, that's not.
I would say 2 to 3 times a week, on average, me and Alex would head over to get some dogs, and it was always 2, sometimes 3 after we played flag football.
Mm-hmm.
You need that protein, yeah.
Super disgusting, but I love them. And there's something, and cause I can eat probably 4 hot dogs in the amount of time it takes me to eat like a brat or 2.
Sure.
And there's something to be said for the high volume, the hot dog. And it's your standard Heinz mustard. It's chopped onions. I love them. I love them to death. But I think, given the stacked nature of this list, obviously it makes sense to group them.
Right. Right.
And again, yeah, so.
There's just so many good options.
Yep.
Okay. So, moving on to number 2, we have a nice ice cold beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pick your poison. If you like just your standard fare of your lights, well, you need a better palate. And also, but they're refreshing. I'll give you that. Like, I'm not drinking the typical heavy beers I like to drink at a cookout, but I'm having a Corona and Lime, or I'm having an Oberon. A little shout out to the little craft beer that everyone should have. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Oscar Blues Pinner. It's a nice session IPA. It's delightful. So everyone try that. But ice cold beer, you know, you've got it as your counterweight when you're playing cornhole or bags. You've got it as your steady companion with the one plate of food, as you have formed a knee table. I mean, it's so good. It's refreshing. It feels right.
Quinn, I'm not surprised, but I'm so glad you mentioned beer because I immediately put beer both on my top and my not top lists here because I put generic watery beer in my not tops. Like the idea of I know this makes me and us snobs, but like the idea of consuming a Bud Light at a cookout sounds like the worst hell imaginable. But the idea of consuming what I recently had for the first time, which was incredible at Kyle's bachelor party, was the Spotted Cow.
Ooh,
like,
Spotted Cow is perfect.
The idea of drinking a Spotted Cow while grilling, as we did in the parking lot at Kyle's bachelor party, that's heaven. You're in heaven. Oh.
An abandoned Kmart parking lot. let's go to a parking lot, grill out.
Yeah, Spotted Cow is great. Anyone living in Wisconsin, go buy one.
Yeah.
I would like to plug I think as much as I'd prefer not to drink your watery canned beer, I think there is something to reaching your hand into a cooler full of ice and pulling out a Bud Light or something of that ilk. But for me, a cookout, it's super summery. The summarier the beer, the better. So Oberon, Corona.
Anything else you're thinking about, Kyle?
Just another one that popped into my head. The Light and Cool Summer Shandy.
Oh, yeah?
Is the perfect cookout or lake beer. Oh my god. Love that Summer Shandy. I drank 3 yesterday. Can't get enough of it. I think beer is firmly entrenched at either very high on the list.
Can I make my New England beer plug? For my New Englanders, Cisco Breweries makes some delicious beer. Their 2 best summer beers are the Whale's Tail Pale Ale and the Cisco Grey Lady, both truly wonderful summer grilling beers.
That sounds delightful.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got through that. Really, I think any beer will do. One of those typical lights are not the ideal choice, but nor would be like a porter or stout.
Yeah.
unless you're a psychopath, but
or British.
Or British. They have a place, but
Do you
it
have
is
any
not
Guinness?
at the cookout. Okay, so coming in at number 1 then? Alright, number 1, it could only be this.
Yeah.
It's the hamburger or the cheeseburger.
Indeed.
I mean, it's your typical food. Nothing gets more American than a cookout with a hamburger or a cheeseburger. It's delicious. Again, similar to hot dogs and brats. Everyone loves it. The kids love it. The adults love it. It's so good. And similar again, toast your buns. Makes all the difference. You can also just season it so many ways. You can season it like a steak. You could take it, you could just season it with salt and pepper and just let the condiments do the talking. You could do really anything.
You can even, if you're the planning sort, like my Uncle Chuck, you can prep your meat mix ahead of time, and you can do a lot of fun things with that. By, like, he puts onions in his actual meat mix, which is really good. The fact that you can go cheeseburger or not, like, if you yell to someone across a cookout, cheese! Like, as a question, like, they know you're asking whether or not you want cheese on your burger.
Right,
Yeah.
you start seeing the hands go up.
Who wants cheese? Blah, 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 blah. It's a given. You're gonna be making, answer me this. Is it a cookout if there are no burgers?
Just barely.
It's a bunch of hipsters hanging out together.
You better have, like, every other thing on this list if you don't have burgers.
Yeah.
If you want to be, like, strongly considered for the cookout moniker.
That's fair.
true. Very true.
Yeah, because you could be grilling out, but not be a cookout. That is a good
It's
distinction.
possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, like, if you're grilling out and doing steaks, just steaks, like, is that a cookout?
No, I think you're grilling steaks.
You just wrote a book and you're having your book release. I think the great thing about burgers is burger culture has changed so much, and there are now 2 very viable and wonderful paths for a burger to take. One is the artisanal, everything's on it, it's deconstructed, yada yada yada, whole grain this. It's delicious. I joke, but that is no criticism. That is a wonderful route for a burger to go. There's
It
also
tastes really good.
Yeah, and there's also the Ron Swanson route, which is this is meat on a bun. Like, that's a really viable route to go at a cookout. And it's
Put
delicious.
ketchup on it if you want.
Yeah. Burgers are just, they speak for themselves. You know where I get my burgers? From Meat and Stuff. It's where I get all my meat. And most of my stuff.
Mike, it's, the store is Food and Stuff.
Oh,
so
Food and Stuff. Sorry.
I would prefer a place called Meat and
Meat and Stuff would be
honestly.
better, yeah.
As far as Quinn's concerned, it's almost the same.
Yeah, that is
it's
basically the
true. What's the difference? I mean, like, we could go on, but burgers is ironclad number 1.
Yeah.
Here, so
I felt pretty good about the top 3. I think there's a lot of play with the rest of them, but the top 3 feel pretty
I feel
locked in.
pretty comfortable with those as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about some things that we think could be contenders for this list. Mike, did you have any?
Yeah, I got 3. One that I think almost certainly should be on this list would be sausage. It could potentially be, if we're feeling very groupy, we could put it on with the hot dog brat group, which I think would be an acceptable generalization. But
I think so.
a nice Italian sausage with peppers and onions is a grill staple in my house, and I love it. And
I think that goes with the hot dogs and the brats pretty well.
So
it's a very closely related cousin to the brat.
I'm willing to hitch a ride on that category. 2 others. One, I think steak tips should be considered. I think that for the reasons that you cited, particularly the cutlery issue, they might fall lower on the list. But I think if we're going to include grilled chicken, which presumably includes boneless grilled chicken, which does need to be cut into pieces and it does not have the same portability, then I think steak tips might be able to slide in the back door as a low-end pick. Because steak tips are wonderful, and if they're at a grill or at a cookout, I'm in. And the last thing that I think should almost certainly be on this list in some way would be ice cream. So I'm willing to take an ice cream sandwich. I'm willing to take some sort of ice cream pop, a drumstick, actual ice cream that you put on top of some other dessert, anything. But ice cream is, to me, a staple of a great cookout at the end after you've had first dessert in the form of watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
I love ice cream. Yeah.
So
Who don't?
Those are my picks.
I only had 2, but they're 2 that I feel very strongly about. The first is pretty much ties in with yours. I had popsicles or some kind of frozen treat.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a popsicle, but like I just think of the popsicle red, white, and blue, like rocket popsicles.
Those are great.
or a drumstick or a strawberry shortcake.
Did you guys have, when you were kids, it was just like a plastic sleeve filled with a liquid and you throw them all in the freezer? And
That's the classic summer backyard.
Like 700 of them in the freezer.
Yeah, because you don't go through them that fast, except when you have a cookout, and then all 700 are gone, and all the kids are sugared up, and they're running everywhere.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I had one of those recently. It doesn't really hold up. Just like the frozen, like fruit
didn't think it would.
Like, I remembered as a kid, like, these are the best things ever, and I had one, a couple weeks ago and was like, I'm done. I'm halfway done. I'm done with this. But some kind of frozen treat, I think, needs to make the list.
Yeah.
The other one I'm really, really serious about is the potato chip. There's a bag of, and it's not fucking Doritos. It's not pretzels. It's like, there's a bag of potato chips at every cookout you've ever been to, probably.
You're right. I always just ignore it because it's one of the worst foods at the cookouts.
Yeah, I'm with Quinn. It's always there, but I don't want it because I've got, and also this actually just reminded me that potato salad we might need to revisit, but it's, to me, the potato chip, I'm like, oh, that would be fun if there weren't so much other good stuff. That's what I always think when I see them at the cookout.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, actually, potato chips is I'm excited because I know at a cookout I'm gonna have some, and usually the potato chips come last and I just throw them like on top of all the rest of my food and eat them as I go. You can, oftentimes this is already done for you, but if it's not, you can crush up your potato chips and put them like in a potato salad or
mix on top of mac and cheese.
On top of mac and cheese. You can mix it in with a pasta salad. There's a lot you can do with the potato chip, and it's like, of the snacks at a cookout, I think the potato chip is the best one. And on this list, we have a lot of mains and a lot of sides, but I think, because typically at a cookout, you do have bowls of like pretzels or some kind of snack, and I think the ultimate expression of snack foods at a cookout is the potato chip. I'm surprised to hear you guys not really seem to have any kind of reaction to the potato chip other than negative.
I'm saving space. I don't waste my time with that foolishness.
I pan the potato chip mostly because it is cruel temptress. You eat one, you're gonna eat a lot. Whether you're even enjoying them, you're just mindlessly eating them, and I need space.
Yeah.
So I have to stay away completely.
It's precious. The space in my digestive system is precious, and it is reserved for meat and delicious vegetables.
That's a weak excuse. I'm surprised at you both for saying something like that. There's always room for something that tastes delicious.
But it's called meat. There's room for more meat.
I just don't love chips.
I'll eat 6 burgers at a cookout with very little exaggeration. I will eat 6 burgers, but the only way I can eat all 6 of those burgers is if I haven't wasted space with foolishness like potato chip dust.
I'm outnumbered here, so I'll make my retreat. But I will say, fuck all that, because potato chips are great, and they're at every cookout you've ever been to, so I'll leave it at that.
Well, your argument has been heard. And the people will know. So if there is a large potato chip contingent in the audience who now hates Quinn and continues to hate me, then we will have registered your argument.
I think one of them is wife Emma. She's going to be unhappy with my stand, but
maybe it's because I grew up eating the best potato chips known to man. I think it's pretty much Michigan exclusive, the Better Made potato chip.
Yeah,
they're better than any other potato, because I'm not a huge fan of the Lay's potato chip, but
no.
a good Better Made potato chip or Ruffles, sign me up.
I can get on board with like a kettle cooked potato chip. I love that crunch.
Interesting. I like potato chips. Nobody here is anti-potato chip.
Let's move on. You guys are making me sad. Okay, so we're serious about which one's on here. I think ice cream in some form.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we can call it frozen treats. I think that's a reasonable generalization.
I think frozen treats a good one.
Yep.
We're adding on Italian sausage. That's no problem.
Which is easy because that's just an addition. Kyle, what do you think about potato salad?
I think potato or pasta salad needs to be on the list.
I think so too. I think mac and cheese is not pasta salad, of course, but I think we have the noodles category represented. So if I were, gun to my head, had to choose a salad to add, it would be potato salad.
Yeah. Is it fair to group potato salad with pasta salad.
Oh, I thought you were just going to try to sneak potato chips in, you sneaky little minx.
Look, I know what I'm beat. And I'm not happy about it, but I'll move on. Thank you. I think potato salads and pasta salads, while structurally different, and they taste different,
yeah,
I think they serve the same function.
I do think you're right.
It's the fork-driven side. It's a little cool down between your hot dog and your hamburger. I think it's fair to put those together, and I think
we call it the alternative salads.
Yeah. And I think we can slide mac and cheese into that. Is that fair?
Wait, you're trying to put mac and cheese with the alternative salads?
I think unless we want to group mac and cheese with alternative salads, I don't know if it has a spot on my list just because I've not seen it at a cookout. But.
So I think that I would prefer that they not go with mac and cheese. Like, I'd rather they not be on the list than we overgeneralize, because I think they're very different. I do think alternative salads to serve a place on this list. But I
can buy in on the alternative salads, and I can understand. I think of the ones that feel vulnerable, I think there's asparagus. I can understand.
Yeah.
I actually expected that one to come off, but I wanted to mention it.
Yeah.
I think kebabs and mac and cheese could be. Hurt my heart for mac and cheese. And then potentially ribs, but I think ribs deserve a low spot.
Well, I think ribs could fall into that barbecue subcategory issue you brought up earlier. So if I were looking at this list, I think I would be willing to give up steak tips in order to keep alternative salads. And I think I would take the bottom two out. I think I would pull ribs and asparagus and put in frozen treats and alternative salads.
But I'm close with you, but I think if you tell me, if we have a list that includes mac and cheese and doesn't include ribs, it sits a little uneasy with me. Because a rib, what's important about the rib is that, like, there's not too many scenarios where you're eating ribs. Whereas, like, mac and cheese I associate mac and cheese less exclusively with a barbecue than I do the rib. Do you see the argument? It's like what we did with the beach activities. Like, an activity's, like, association with the beach counts strongly for it. And I think I associate a rib more strongly with a cookout than I would a mac and cheese.
So what do you think we ought to do?
I think we should keep ribs on at like a 10.
Mm-hmm.
Remove asparagus, even though I think it's a good fill-in for a green at a cookout. And also, I think mac and cheese and asparagus are the two to go. And I think we add on ice cream and what was the other one we wanted to put on?
Alternative salads.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I'm with that.
I can get behind that.
At this point, it comes down to whether or not we want ribs or mac and cheese on here.
Yeah. I think watermelon should also hop kebabs. I've thought about it. I think watermelon, it should be 6.
I think if we're getting into ranking, I might even put watermelon above alternative salads, because if you ask me which of those things would you rather eat, it's watermelon.
I think your top 4 is perfect.
Okay.
I think so too. Let's just do this then.
Yeah.
So 1 burger, 2 beer, 3 hot dogs / brats / sausage, 4 corn.
Yep.
5 watermelon then? Watermelon or alternative salads?
I'd go watermelon.
I'd prefer watermelon higher over alternative salads.
Then how do we feel about alternative salads next?
That's where I would go.
So your pasta salads, your potato salads, then your kebabs?
I would go grilled chicken next.
Yeah. Oh, totally skip chicken. Apologies. Grilled chicken. So where does ice cream slot in here? Because to me,
I think ice cream might be next.
I think ice cream's next.
Ice creams, kebabs, and then ribs at 10?
I think we got a list.
That feels pretty definitive and ironclad to me with an asterisk. Unless you guys have any last minute changes you want to make, I think we're pretty close to done here.
I'm not going to die on mac and cheese hill, but I am going to recommend you start bringing them to cookouts.
Hey, I'm doing that from now on, but again,
I like the list. I like where we're at.
I love this list.
Quinn, do you want to recount our top 10 cookout foods for us?
I'd love to. And then I'd love to eat them all. Even though it's 9 a.m. All right. So coming in at number 10, we have ribs, mostly due to people's inability to cook them well. Coming in at number 9, we have kebabs. 8, ice cream, popsicles, frozen treats. Number 7 is grilled chicken. Number 6 is alternative salads such as potato or pasta salad. Number 5, we have watermelon. 4 is corn. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is hot dogs, brats, or Italian sausage. Number 2 is a nice ice cold beer.
Summer shandy.
We'll let you have that for the potato chip thing. That's fine.
And then number 1 is the American hamburger or cheeseburger.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Fantastic.
This was great fun. It was awesome to see how the sausage gets made.
Ah.
Glad to be a part of this. And I'm hoping I didn't forget anything for all the grief I've given you guys on other pods. I know I've given Mike anxiety every time he releases one.
No, this was great because I think the highlight of this episode, well, there's 2 for me. One is that this list exists. Just that it exists. Full stop. The other is that you were able to correct me in the pod on my erroneous meat and stuff reference. Because now I don't have to worry for weeks about what you're going to correct me for. Right. I was able to just get it out of the way. I'm sure you'll notice some things later, but I'm glad we were able to get the first.
This will be the least stressful editing job ever because I don't have to worry about Quinn's opinion on it.
That's true.
I know he hates me for the bit. I already know this.
I think when I go back and listen to this, my stress is going to come from hearing my voice for about an hour, which is always just the worst.
Yeah, Kyle and I had very, very real anxiety the first couple times. We both were like, it's very weird to bare your soul and talk a lot and record it.
Why do I sound like a bitch? Am I a bitch?
Why am I so nasally?
Well, anyways, long overdue. Glad to finally get you on. Thanks so much for putting as much love as you did into this list.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's only one way to grill, and that is with love. I appreciate being on. It's been a lot of fun.
Is that on an apron?
I don't know, but it should be.
It should be.
So, but this was a blast. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Quinn. You, good sir.
Alrighty, friends. That was our top 10 for this week, but now we'd love to hear your top 10. So please check us out on all of our available social media outlets, traditional outlets, whatever outlets we have. Check us out on Twitter at top10km. That's all spelled out, top10km. Our email, top10km, spelled the same way, at gmail.com. Or our site, top10km.podbean.com. All forms of communication accepted, except for serial killer notes. Please don't send us any of those.
If you like the pod, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never have to miss an episode of Top 10 ever again. If you didn't like it, please tell us why. We'll try to make the show better. Our theme music was composed by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork was created by Erin Sant. You can check out her stuff at Sant Design on Instagram.
Alrighty, goons. We'll see you next week.